Incredibly high as President Trump prepares to address a joint session of Congress Tuesday night. It comes as newspapers around the world are highlighting what appears to be a realignment of U.S. alliances and a stunning turn towards Russia. On Friday, in a heated confrontation in the Oval Office, President Trump and Vice President Vance berated President Zelensky in an explosive and unprecedented televised showdown. Now, U.S. officials say the path to a peace deal to end the war in Ukraine is deeply uncertain and wholly dependent on the Ukrainian leaders' next steps. Since the clash, Trump administration officials have also discussed whether to pause U.S. military aid to Ukraine, according to two administration officials, though it's unclear whether or when the president would take such a step. The meeting took a sharp turn when the vice president mentioned talks with Russian President Putin.
The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy.
He broke this ceasefire. He killed our people, and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
The meeting then descended into a shouting match.
During the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it. You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S. at one point hid her face in her hands. A White House official tells NBC News that following the confrontation, President Zelensky was asked to leave the White House. A planned joint news conference abruptly canceled. A minerals deal that was completed left unsigned. President Trump posting on social media he disrespected the United States of America in its cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he is ready for peace. The confrontation comes just days after the U.S. sided with Russia over Europe at the United Nations, opposing a resolution condemning Russian aggression on the third anniversary of its invasion of Ukraine. The Oval Office showdown was cheered in Russia. Putin ally Dmitry Medvedev writing, quote, "The insolent pig finally got a proper slapdown in the Oval Office." As U.S. military support for Ukraine hangs in the balance, President Zelensky weighed in on Fox News.
So I'm not hearing from you, Mr. President, a thought that you owe the president an apology.
No, I respect the president and I respect people. And if, I don't know, if I think that we have to be very open and very honest. And I'm not sure that we did something bad. This is so sensitive. You know, just a ceasefire without security guarantees. This is so sensitive for our people. I'm speaking like a president of a people who are in this struggle 3 years, and they just want to hear that America on our side and that America will stay with us, not with Russians, with us.
And joining me now is the Speaker of the House, Republican Congressman Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Speaker Johnson, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Hey, Kristen, great to be with you as always.
It's great to have you back, Mr. Speaker. As you know, reaction has been pouring into that Oval Office meeting on Friday. Democrats and even some Republicans say it only emboldened Vladimir Putin. A Kremlin spokesman saying today that the U.S. foreign policy shift, quote, largely coincides with its vision. Here was the Wall Street Journal editorial board, quote, Putin wins the Trump-Zelensky Oval Office spectacle. Was Vladimir Putin the winner here, Mr. Speaker?
No, he wasn't. Listen, I have participated in a lot of bilateral meetings in my time with heads of state and other dignitaries. There's always a certain protocol that goes along with this. I've never seen anything like President Zelensky's behavior there. He berated and interrupted his host, and instead of expressing gratitude for the extraordinary help that the U.S. has provided his country and effectively helped him stay alive and stay in power. So the way that went down was very disappointing. I hope and pray, frankly, that President Zelensky will come to his senses, come back to President Trump, express gratitude as he should, apologize for his behavior there, and accept this mineral rights deal, because that is the best way for us to get to a point of peace over there in that region, and it's in the interest of both countries.
Well, I want to play you what you said almost a year ago when you argued in favor of sending more aid to Ukraine. Take a listen.
I believe Xi and Vladimir Putin and Iran really are an axis of evil. I think they're in coordination on this. I think that Vladimir Putin would continue to march through Europe if he were allowed. I think he might go to the Balkans next. I think he might have a showdown with Poland or one of our NATO allies. To put it bluntly, I would rather send bullets to Ukraine than American boys.
Mr. Speaker, do you still believe that Ukraine is an ally who the United States should support over Vladimir Putin and an axis of evil?
Yes, it's pretty absurd for anyone in the media or Democrats to somehow proclaim that President Trump, the White House, or Republicans in Congress are on Putin's side. It's a joke. We understand that he is a dangerous adversary, and he is the one that provoked the war. When we did the aid to Ukraine a year ago, the entire point of that, and I was consistent from that moment until today, the whole point was to position Ukraine for peace talks, to make sure that they could hold the line until President Trump returned to the White House, which we knew was going to happen. President Trump is the only figure on the entire globe who is powerful enough to bring both of these parties to the table. And he was in the process of doing that. And he was very, I think, excited about the deal that was going to be consummated yesterday. But President Zelensky went in and blew it up. And it is such a great disappointment for everyone. We need to get him back to the table. We need to get Ukraine to express gratitude, of course, for all that we've done for them. But to bring an end to this conflict, it is in America's interest to get this done. And it is certainly, obviously, in Ukraine's interest and all of our allies in Europe and around the world.
But, Mr. Speaker, you're saying that we all know that Putin provoked the war. Actually, President Trump said that President Zelensky provoked the war. The week started with the U.S. siding with Russia and North Korea at the UN, refusing to condemn Russian aggression in Ukraine. It ended with this Oval Office confrontation with Zelensky. Is President Trump realigning the United States with Russia here?
No, President Trump is trying to get these two parties to a point of peace. And it takes certain maneuvers and certain strategies to do that. You have two parties who, to this point, have not shown any interest, apparently, in getting to peace. What President Zelensky did in the White House was effectively signaled to us that he's not ready for that yet. And I think that's a grave disappointment. We have to get this settled. And we stand with our allies, we always do, but they have to be reasonable. You've got to bring an end to this war. And for Zelensky to come in and make demands that he wasn't even making a year ago, I think shows that his priorities are in the wrong place. And I certainly hope that he will come back to his senses. President Trump has been very clear about this, that if he is ready for peace, then we can negotiate a deal. And Kristen, this mineral rights deal is a win-win for everyone. It will give us access to rare earth minerals that we need, and it will provide a level of security for Ukraine. They will effectively be in an economic partnership with us after that point, and we will definitely always defend our interest and our investments. Russia knows that. China knows that. Iran and North Korea know that. And that's a very important message for us to send.
Mr. Speaker, you're saying that the United States stands with its allies, and yet what we saw there in the Oval Office was the president and vice president berating an ally in front of cameras. Just to put a fine point on this, is the United States abandoning Ukraine?
No, they're not abandoning Ukraine. I was with the president a day before that meeting, and he was excited about this mineral rights deal. He believed it, and we all believed it, to be in the best interest of both countries. It is not the president and the vice president that berated Zelensky. I saw it the other way around. I saw Zelensky rather stiff-necked in the Oval Office. Instead of being gracious, saying thank you and looking for a way out of this mess, he did quite the opposite. Look, that's why members of Congress are frustrated. That's why the American people are frustrated about this. We have to stand for America's principles and America's priorities, and I think this would have accomplished all those things. And it's really unfortunate the way that it developed.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Lindsey Graham on Friday floated the idea that President Zelensky may need to resign in order for there to be a peace agreement. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, something has to change. Either he needs to come to his senses and come back to the table in gratitude, or someone else needs to lead the country to do that. I mean, it's up to the Ukrainians to figure that out. But I can tell you that we are re-exerting peace through strength. President Trump has brought back strength to the White House. We knew that this moment would come. We worked hard for it to come, and now it's here. But we need these parties to go along with this, and we need President Zelensky to do what is necessary. This war has drug on far too long. He's lost hundreds of thousands of people, including women and children. We've got to bring an end to it, and I think our European allies are hoping that that is the case, and we are as well.
Okay, so just to put a fine point on that, you are saying that it might be necessary for President Zelensky to step down and not Putin. Do you want to see Putin step down?
I'd like to see Putin defeated, frankly. He is an adversary of the United States.
Okay.
But in this conflict, we've got to bring an end to this war. It's in everybody's interest.
All right. Well, I do want to talk about the big budget bill that passed through the House. Your plan calls for almost $900 billion over the next 10 years in cuts from the Energy and Commerce Committee. As you know, it's going to be nearly impossible to reach that level of cuts without touching entitlements. I know you have been asked this before, Mr. Speaker, but I need to get you on the record here again. Are cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security off the table?
Yes, and don't take my word for it, Kristen. Go do a word search of the budget resolution that we passed on Tuesday. There is not one mention of Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. It's not in the bill because we haven't set the policy. What we're trying to do is get America back on sound fiscal ground. We have a $36 trillion federal debt and ballooning deficits. The Republican Party is the party of fiscal responsibility. The American people want us to review the expenditures of the country and get our fiscal house in order, and that's what we must do. At the same time, we've got to extend the Trump-era tax cuts so we can make sure that every American does not receive the largest tax increase in U.S. history at the end of this year. We have very serious work. We can do both of those things simultaneously and not affect benefits for anyone who relies upon those and is eligible to receive them. President Trump's been crystal clear about this, and we have as well. But in those programs, you have lots of inefficiencies. In Medicaid, for example, there's an estimated $50 billion a year that is lost in fraud alone. We've got to clean that up, and the people want us to do it. That's what we're talking about, ensuring efficiencies, ensuring that the programs are strengthened so that they can remain solvent and help the people they're intended to help.
So you say there won't be any cuts to entitlements, but on Friday, Elon Musk, who President Trump has, of course, put in charge of making cuts all across the government, called Social Security, quote, the biggest Ponzi of all time. Mr. Speaker, is that a sign that Social Security is Elon Musk's next target?
No, well, I've met with Elon about this multiple times. We meet late into the night in his office, and we've looked at that. What he's finding with his algorithms crawling through the data of Social Security system is enormous amounts of fraud, waste, and abuse.
So it's a target.
And we need
it is
to
a target.
that. The American people want us to. No, Kristen, don't put words in my mouth. What I am saying is we have a moral responsibility to ensure that those programs are conducted in a way that does not allow for this massive fraud and abuse. And that's what he is finding. He's finding, for example, that one Social Security number can be assigned to dozens or maybe hundreds of people, so that every time there's a check distribution, it goes to all those different addresses. There was no safeguard in the existing software, the Social Security, to prevent that from happening. That is outrageous. And when these examples are presented to the American people, they're going to be on the side of Doge, Elon, President Trump, and the Republicans in Congress. And we look forward to cleaning that up.
It's worth noting the Social Security Administration's internal watchdog found that less than 1% of benefit payments were improper. I do want to get to my final question, though, which is about the shutdown.
Don't believe it. Hey, don't believe it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in 2 weeks, there is a potential government shutdown, Mr. Speaker. A lot of people worried about this. Can you guarantee that the federal government will stay open?
We are working hard to do our responsibility to keep the government open. The Democrats have to help negotiate this, and they've, to this point, shown no interest in finding a reasonable solution for that. We're looking to pass a clean CR to freeze funding at current levels to make sure that the government can stay open while we begin to incorporate all these savings that we're finding through the Doge effort and these other sources of revenue that President Trump's policies are bringing to the table. And then for FY26, for the next fiscal year, you're going to see a very different process and a lot more efficient and effective spending for the people. We look forward to that.
But, Mr. Speaker, of course, Republicans control the White House, the House, and the Senate. So isn't it on Republicans to keep the government open, and will you do so?
Well, government funding is always bipartisan. You have to have partners on both sides of the aisle to do it. And we need our Democrat colleagues to come to the table and be reasonable about that. They want to use government funding as some sort of weapon against President Trump and his administration, and that is not the way this is supposed to work. Republicans are going to do the responsible thing. We're going to do our duty and keep the government open, and we're working in good faith, negotiating in good faith with our colleagues in Congress to get that done. And I hope everyone will come to the table and do their job.
All right. Covered a lot of ground today. House Speaker Mike Johnson, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Good to be with you.
Great to be with you. When we come back, Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma joins me next.